What's up, boopers? With Classic World of Warcraft just around the corner and my leveling guide almost done, I thought I would take a break to help prepare everyone coming back to Classic WoW from a 14-year absence, or for those of you completely new planning to play for the first time. Classic World of Warcraft is from a different era of video gaming where games were not afraid to kick your ass, chew you up, and then spit you out. Before games were all about protecting you from having a bad experience, back then it was expected that if you got your ass kicked, you would just stand back up, dust yourself off, and then just try again. That challenge is a big reason behind what makes Classic fun and engaging. So I decided to make my top 10 list of ways that Classic WoW will probably kill you, whether you are new, a returning player, and heck, even private server veterans. So let's start with number 10. Weapon and defense skills. Unlike in most modern MMOs and retail WoW, your ability to use weapons and avoid attacks are governed by a skill, and this skill will only level up if you use it. For example, if you use a one-handed sword, you'll get a one-handed sword skill, but if you swap to a two-handed sword, you'll start back at level 1. This means that while leveling, if you've been rolling with a single weapon type until level 30 and then you suddenly get this new shiny type, crazy damage and stats, when you start swinging that new weapon, all your hits are gonna miss or get glanced, causing you to lose almost every fight you pick until you can get that skill up. You might be thinking, yeah Hakurai, I know that's not gonna get me killed, but what is often overlooked is the defense skill. Many classes are able to reach max level without taking that many attacks due to their ability to CC, kite, or having pets tank, meaning their defense skill will likely be quite low once they start doing dungeons and raids at level 60. What this means is if a level 60 Frost Mage with 200 defense skill pulls aggro from the tank on a 60 elite, that 60 elite will most likely end up critting and hitting the mage with lots of crushing blows and crits. So don't forget to let a boar beat on you once in a while to keep your defense skill up while you're leveling if you're a caster. Number 9. Drowning. You may think this will never happen to you, everybody does until it happens to them. In retail, players have 3 minutes of underwater breathing before they start taking drowning damage, but that time window in Classic is a short 1 minute for all but undead. This increases the value of underwater breathing spells and potions as there are quite a few underwater quests in Classic WoW, and if you find yourself doing them, you may just forget to watch your breath meter and find yourself going blub 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 blub. Number 8. Elevators. They've been killing players since the dawn of time in World of Warcraft, but with the advent of flying mounts, it's been possible to avoid most open world elevators and just fly place to place. Well, those days are gone. When you venture into Thousand Needles or Nomergan or Undercity, you'll find yourself riding some of those bad boys, and if you aren't paying attention or you're just hopping around like a spaz, you may find yourself hopping to your death. Beware of enemy faction players as well with mind control or fears when you go near these things. Number 7. Over-aggroing monsters. In most games nowadays, be it Black Desert Online or retail or some others, you find yourself being the king of the world, just pulling recklessly without too much concern for your own safety, so long as you have okay gear and don't go overboard. You can forget about that in Classic. You won't need to take more than a few steps out of the level 6 starting area to find that if you pull an extra mob or two, you better hope you don't get any resists, missed dodges, or parries on your attacks, or those 2 mobs will likely take you out. And if you get 3, you better either pop a potion or start running for your life. It may seem stressful at first, but this threat of over-aggroing will drastically increase the value of partying up with strangers, so you'd better either pull carefully or bring a friend. Number 6. Fleeing monsters. This mechanic has long been since a staple of World of Warcraft and other MMOs, but in none is it so deadly as it is in Classic. When you're afraid of pulling more than 1 or 2 mobs at a time, you should be very afraid of the humanoid types that will run away for their lives and seek out friends when they are low HP. All it takes is a little bit of positioning and a slow to prevent it from happening, but even veterans of vanilla will sometimes forget to do this and quickly find themselves in over their heads whenever those mobs run off and call for help. It's deadly in dungeons, it's deadly in the open world, and it'll most likely kill you more than once on your journey to 60. Number 5. Monster abilities. When you're a hero who has saved the world many times from Deathwing and Illidan, you don't really care what a lowly wolf or that disheveled cultist is gonna do. You just walk up and you smash their face in, right? Well, in Classic, you may want to pay attention to what the mobs are doing. Some of them will disarm you, some will spam heavy hitting spells you need to interrupt, others will try to heal themselves, they've got disease debuffs, crippling poisons. All of it can make or break a simple one-on-one fight with an enemy if you don't respect the abilities that the mob can cast. It'll quickly teach you to utilize line of sight, ask passing priests for dispels, and make sure you are using interrupts on cooldown. Number 4, forgetting to eat and drink before pulling. In retail and in other MMORPGs nowadays, they encourage a fast-paced game style of go 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 go. If you try to do something like that in Classic, you'll be flopping over dead left and right. Managing your mana and health takes a bit of finesse, and certain classes will often find themselves low HP or low mana after each pull. If you don't remember to bring with you bandages and buff food and you try to go too quickly, you'll go quickly to the graveyard instead. This makes Spirit one of the most valuable stats for all classes while leveling. Even as a melee class that doesn't have mana, it will severely reduce your downtime and help you move faster, but still not quite at the pace that you'd be expecting in retail WoW. Number 3, pulling threat and aggro in dungeons. In retail, threat is barely something you even have to think about anymore. All the tanks have AoE spells and generate insane amounts of threat just by existing in any encounter. You can go ham out the gate and you'll be hard pressed to pull threat. Things like Tranquil, Air Totem, and Blessing of Salvation are more or less things of the past. Not in Classic WoW, however. You'll find that the usual tank in Classic, Warriors, have very limited AoE threat. They are forced to rely on professions and stance dancing to grab initial threat over healers. If you start spamming giant AoEs on targets the tank isn't focusing his threat on, you'll find that the mobs are just running all over the place willy-nilly, just smacking everybody. Giving the tank time to build threat is a real thing in Classic, as tanks need time to build rage and spread their love around. So you'll have to kick your retail habits of going ham out the gate and remember to give your tank a few seconds before each pull. Otherwise, be prepared to get smacked around by some elites. Conversely, healers who like to pre-heal and put hots on the tanks and shields before the tanks even get any threat will find themselves on the receiving end of some elite dungeon love taps as well. Number 2, Booty Bay and Gadgets and Guards. This one is more likely to happen on a PvP server, but it's still deadly nonetheless. Running around in the neutral cities of Gadgetzan, Ratchet, or Booty Bay can be tricky. All you have to do is accidentally right-click on an enemy faction player or its pet, and you'll hear the goblin yell of death as the bruisers charge at you, net you, and beat you to death. It's a fairly common tactic for griefing players to just sit on key NPCs while flagged, like Flight Masters, or mess around in the Ratchet to Booty Bay boat just to trick you into poking them and getting yourself killed. So tread carefully as you step through the neutral cities. And lastly, the most likely reason you will die in Classic WoW is roaming monsters. Many monsters in Classic patrol around naturally, forcing you to constantly be aware of your surroundings. You can sometimes handle an extra wolf or a kobold if he walks too close to you, but it can quickly add up if you're not paying attention. The world is filled with living creatures with AI that causes them to roam around, but there are a few of these that do this that stand out above the rest. If you find yourself auto-running on the road in Barrens or around Loch Modan, you may find yourself accidentally attacked by a group of 4 elite riders of the opposite faction that'll wipe the floor with you. If you're in Ungoro, the infamous devil swords that stomp around and shake the earth as they approach will definitely catch you off guard and bite your face off. They are at least kind enough to alert you of their presence with some shaking earth and stomping, whereas Teramus the Devourer, a black dragon that wanders the Blasted Lands as a 60 elite, will aggro unsuspecting levelers in the zone and usually kill them in one hit. There's Duskwing, there's Borrelgore, the list goes on. There are lots of scary monsters out there in Classic World of Warcraft, so if you don't keep your eyes and ears open, you may find yourself making a run back to your corpse. But that's it for my top 10 list of ways I think new or returning players will be dying in Classic WoW. Let me know in the comment section below about what ways you predict will end a lot of players' lives. But until next time, I am booping out. Boop.